Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I always enjoy talking about the zoo. So first, talk about the Zoological Society, and why we exist is simply to support Miller Park Zoo, which you may know is owned and operated by the city of Bloomington. But we're a standalone 501c3 that has a working relationship, a memorandum of understanding with the city. We actually office at the zoo. There are two of us. We're a mighty team of two. As you can guess, we have a very hands-on board that helps us do the work. So community outreach, fundraising. Fundraising has been our primary mission from the start, as well as education. So I just want to talk just a little bit about the zoo, so you can appreciate why our organization exists and why it's so important. Miller Park was developed in the late 1800s, and the neighbors, I think they called it a subscription. Actually, the neighbors, the community, helped fund the purchase of the land for Miller Park. And it began developing and really becoming a hub of activity and a social interaction there in Miller Park. This is the pavilion, which really looks the same today. We just had an event at the pavilion last Saturday. So the park, as you might imagine, had critters in it. But some of those animals that the caretaker of the park decided, well, maybe if I just sort of, keep some of these animals, that will be enjoyable for the visitors of the park. Well, that continued to evolve. And this is a photograph from the History Museum that shows one of the early, truly cages that animals were when they started collecting animals and keeping them in Miller Park. So just sort of the start of the zoo. When it really started to become real, and the idea that, well, we really need to have a zoo, a lion cub fell off of one of the circus trains. The circus trains that came through Bloomington Normal, and the circus was being held here on a regular basis. They had lots of animals. So a cub fell off, a local farmer found the animal and started to care for it. But then they knew that there were animals being held in the park. So the city of Bloomington purchased the animal from the farmer, and it was given the name Big Jim. I don't know if it was Little Jim whenever he was a cub, but so Big Jim, they knew then for sure that there's enough enthusiasm and excitement, so they wanted to, and this is the Catopher Animal Building, which was the first building built to really make Miller Park Zoo, the birth of Miller Park Zoo. So that was opened in 1914, and it was a big event in our community. And it was supported by the community as well as, of course, the city of Bloomington. So that was the impetus for the beginning of what we see today in Miller Park. And as that building and then other habitats and exhibits allowed the animal collection at the zoo to grow. These are red wolves, which we still have in the zoo today. The wallaby walkabout. The 70s became a really big time for growth and expansion of the zoo. The footprint, originally, and I've talked to a couple of people that said, yes, I remember riding my bike up to the Catopher Animal Building and going in and visiting the animals and then leaving. Today we know, if you haven't been to the zoo in a while, if you're at that end of the zoo trying to get in the Catopher Animal Building, but because there's a new entrance or a different entrance today. But the 70s, the zoo saw a lot of growth. The Wallaby Walkabout was built. These habitats allowed new exhibits to exist. The Zoo Lab building was built in the 90s, and that houses a lot of reptiles and a variety of animals in that building. In the 2000s, the Children's Zoo was added. The rainforest has had a couple of different iterations, but it's certainly a very popular exhibit today, and it's been converted to a tropical rainforest, so we can represent animals from all around the globe. The flamingo exhibit, which I love hearing the children screaming as they come through the front door, the flamingos are out. And the Jabraza monkey exhibit was built in 21. And I know people are often curious, how does the city of Bloomington fund all of these projects? Well, I'll dive in a little deeper to the part the Zoological Society has, but the city is also in a position to receive grants from organizations like the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. This project was about $1 million project, and it was funded in part by a grant from IDNR. The Mulefoot hog, the collection is built around our zoo's involvement in helping keep animals on the planet. Now this is a breed of animal that was unique in many ways to the early 1900s. It was a source of meat, but it's a slow growing pig, and when we learned about other pigs that could produce meat faster. But it's a lovable animal for sure. The South American exhibit allowed the zoo to bring several new species, again, of animals to the zoo. If you haven't come and met our anteaters, they're quite a handsome pair, and we're hoping, because the animals are a part of breeding programs, we're networked with other zoos in North America. And we're the second smallest accredited zoo in North America. There are about 300 accredited zoos in North America. And there are species survival programs that are managed on that national level. So the animals in our zoo, most of them are part of species survival programs, and someone else decides, like we might say to the national organization, we would like to feature some South American animals, it would be great to have anteaters. Then they look at their network and decide what animals come to us, and whether or not we're in a position to allow the animals to breed and to be a part of the sustainability of the animals on the planet. One of the things that's really important in a zoo like ours is the care that the animals receive. And this is some of our zoo staff and the vet team doing Sally's annual exam. And she receives regular exams, but not always does she have to be taken for x-ray, and an animal like that requires the whole team to be involved in the exam process. Education, our zoos exist, I believe, for three very important reasons. And we see over 100,000 visitors every year, so recreation, having fun is an important part of why zoos exist. Education is also a very important part of why we exist. Our junior zookeeper program is in its 53rd year, and every year it's turning out young, soon-to-be adults that have developed leadership skills. Some of them have decided they want to stay in the sciences, or programs related to animals. So education, but not only of children, in our camps and classes, but also adults of all ages. I mean, when you come to the zoo, if you take a moment to not just look at the animals, but read the sign, you know, the exhibit markers, then you'll learn about the animals as well. So I mentioned that we're an accredited zoo, that's Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and that is a very rigorous and the gold standard for zoos. So the Zoological Society, it's very important that, and it's been true for many years, that our community has rallied around the zoo. That's nothing new. When the Katover Animal Building was built, the community funded that. When the Flamingo exhibit was built, the community funded that. So the Zoological Society has been that sort of that organizing group that's helped tell the story of our zoo and encourage support. When you join the zoo, and a lot of folks do, we have around 2,000 households in the community, and primarily those are folks, they know they want to come to the zoo several times a year, and if you do, having a membership is really a more economical solution than paying the gate fee. But we have done some things in recent years to make our zoo accessible through the Museums for All grant. If you have a SNAP or some type of government subsidized funding for food, then you qualify to come into the zoo at a reduced rate. So the society, our fundraising efforts involve donor development. There are folks that have significant means to contribute to the zoo, and they do, and we're so grateful for them. We have sponsors like our good friends at Thrivent that just were sponsors of our 5K run. And each of the 3 events that the Zoological Society puts on annually are geared for fundraising, but also fundraising. So we had about 400 participants last Saturday, and we, thanks to sponsors and those folks that participated in the race, we raised about $20,000 that will go to our current project of greatest need at the zoo. Not a runner, but more like beer or food. Brews at the zoo is for you. And again, you know, we'll sell out 1,000 tickets for this event, and we often hear people saying, gosh, I didn't realize we had a zoo here in our community. So quench your thirst, come see the animals. That's a really fun event. And then annually, and this is our zoo director, Jay Pratt, who came to the zoo about 2.5, 3 years ago. He's super guy, very smart. He's always been in the zoo world. And here he is at our Zoodoo Gala, which is an annual event, one of our largest fundraisers for the year. And again, a very different opportunity. And for some of folks in town, it's their moment to share in giving to the zoo. This, if you can see this, our current project of greatest need is to build a sloth habitat, because we are going to bring sloths back to our collection. So this is in the rainforest, and we're creating a netted in area, and we'll be able to bring sloths. Our keepers, it's really interesting. I learned so much, and I spent 30 years working with architects, and my husband says it's a heck of a lot more fun when I come home talking about the animals than the architect, the work we were doing there. But the keepers are like, this is a very easy animal to take care of. They're not very exciting. They have personality, but not a whole lot. The fastest you'll ever see them move is when they're falling out of the tree. But we know people in the community love sloths, and we're hoping, depending on the animal we receive, how much, what that animal's personality is, whether they are appropriate to come in direct contact with the general public. But we're designing the habitat so you really will be able to experience the animals. So okay, so that's me talking a lot. And so I'll put a cabbage leaf in it and see if they're answer any questions for you, or share the time in answering questions.
If you guys want to come up, we can fire questions at both of you.